How's everybody doing today? Today's going to be a little bit off the whim. Don't really have a script to this one. I just really want to talk about the things that I'm grateful for. I have been doing a lot of things in order to, I guess you could say, not only improve my quality of life, but I've also been putting myself in positions where I can grow. Started boxing a couple years ago, off and on, and now I've started competing. I've also competed in 2 fights last year, of course. Loving the process. It's definitely a mental challenge. It's something that I'm getting used to. And I've been lifting weights since for almost a decade. For almost a decade, I've been lifting weights, and the process of that has also been mentally challenging as well. I remember my first time lifting weights. I was 17, and it was at the weightlifting room. And that weightlifting room, there was full of all the football players. This was after the football season, mind you. So all these guys were already, they just had their winter break. This is in the January of 2017. This was the January of 2017. And it was between me and another friend. And we decided to go try out weightlifting. All my other friends were doing weightlifting. It was one of those things that we were like, you know what, let's try to be cool or something, I guess it was a cool thing to be an athlete in high school. So, and for you to go and lift weights, it was another cool thing, especially gaining weight, gaining muscle and whatnot. It was a cool thing. And I decided to try it out. With those football players, mind you, they were a lot bigger than me. I was probably sitting at close to 130, 120 pounds soaking wet when I first started. And that very first day, they had us doing insane, crazy warm ups. In reality, it wasn't crazy, but the warm up itself had me gassed out. It was insane. In reality, it was just some high intensity interval training. Hey, there's a duck right next to me. He's wanted to say hello, I guess. Walking by, a little friendly little guy. And then I started to work out. So the workout itself was like 5 sets of 10 for squats or whatnot, and there was a whole bunch of leg exercises that I was not even aware of, that I was not even accustomed to. And my legs were so sore that I could barely get out of bed for about 2 weeks. My whole lower half of my body, I could barely move. And it was my very first time lifting weights, and I had lifted with all the football players and whatnot. So that next day, I had some event I went to, and my buddy was there. I was talking to my buddy, and I was telling him, like, hey, I really don't want to do this anymore. This is only after day one, and I really don't think this is a good idea for me to keep doing this. I'm in so much pain, I can't move. And I ended up skipping those weightlifting classes. That being said, when I did skip those weightlifting classes, I was out, doing my normal things, thinking everything is sweet. And I don't know, something inside told me that I needed to be there. Something told me that I needed to be in that weightlifting class. So eventually, after my legs started halfway recovering, after about a week, mind you, they didn't recover fully for about 2 weeks. I ended up going back to that class, and luckily it was an upper body day. And I finally got to do some bench, and I finally got to do some other chest exercises that I wasn't, used to. My upper body wasn't that sore though. And I learned the ins and outs with the coaches there, as well as all of the football players who helped me get to at least base level. When it comes to form, I also learned how to do power cleans, hang cleans, deadlifts, a whole bunch of other exercises and whatnot. It was very difficult for me. It was very hard for me to learn those Olympic weightlifting forms. But eventually, over the couple of weeks or so, I started to get the hang of it. I ended up testing somewhat of a max. I could finally bench 95 pounds. I could squat 135. And later on throughout the year, I progressed pretty rapidly. And I started to see a little bit of gains. Those gains kind of got me hooked into staying into that weightlifting class, especially watching the people that were in there, the bigger high schoolers. They were showing me that it's absolutely possible for me to be there. So while a lot of the other people were doing the mid-semester lifts, their maxes, I sat and watched. Obviously, I did my maxes, and they were whatever. And I saw, if I'm not mistaken, this kid at the time, bigger guy, bigger guy. He was an insane football player. I think he squatted like 495, and I was like, this is absolutely absurd. There's no way this is possible. And I'm watching it within my eyes, and yeah, ever since then I got really into lifting heavy. I actually ended up benching 135 pounds by the end of the semester. I ended up squatting 225 pounds, and I think my deadlift was like it was like 250 something, 275 maybe, but it was like an absolute grind. I promise you, I almost passed out, and I finally hit a 135 power clean. That was the biggest moment. That 135 power clean, I felt like I was actually there. So after that, during my next semester, which was after the summer or whatnot, I ended up doing the weightlifting classes in the fall semester as well. But that next year later, I didn't take those classes. I was actually skipping my classes to go to weightlifting. And I would stay after school to do weightlifting as well. Ever since then, I figured this is right for me. I really love this. This is what I'm going to do. I actually ended up joining the Army, and I stopped lifting weights for about 6 months. When I joined the Army, I pretty much primarily focused on calisthenics, running, the typical Army stuff. And so far, it was probably some of the best training of my life. I actually was in the best shape of my life as well. I was 125 pounds, but I had like an 8-pack. I was shredded. I felt strong. I could run. And then I ended up going to college. I dropped down and fluctuated between 140 and 150. And I ended up lifting weights in college as well. That's when I started my fitness channel. I guess you could say my fitness Instagram and whatnot. It was something that I figured it was the most exciting part of my lifting journey, and I wanted to share it with all of you. And I ended up getting a 315 deadlift. I ended up getting 315 squat, 225 bench, all this, and that. Either way, the whole point is that these challenges seem to get easier and easier and easier. It was about 2020. I was doing my regular going to the gym and whatnot, and COVID happened. So I was out of the gym for about 3 months, unfortunately. I was out of the gym for about 3 months, and when the time came when the first gym opened, I was immediately there. And with that being said, it was basically like starting from zero. Starting from zero was hard. But eventually it came to the point where I was lifting more and more and more and more, lifting heavier. And I grew into the love of powerlifting. Once I started powerlifting is when I started to understand my strengths within me. I knew I wasn't the strongest person, but I knew that I had strength within me. I knew I was a strong person. My squat and my deadlift proved it. So with that being said, I spent a lot of time studying, getting down into the deep YouTube rabbit holes when it came to exercise and fitness. It was a wonderful time for me now that I look back on it, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot of training, and I loved it. To be fair, it did create a lot of injuries that I wish I could have prevented, but after a while, I would say about 2023, mid 2023, I was so tired of lifting weights. Mind you, I started powerlifting around late 2020, and yeah, I got to 2023. I was like, this is not for me anymore. I mean, my maxes went up, my lifts went up, but everything got so repetitive. Everything got so repetitive. So I decided to stop and stop going to the gym all in all. I'd go maybe once a week, and that's all I had the desire to. And I ended up trying boxing again. I did a little bit in college. I did a little bit in high school, not much, just enough to kind of learn how to throw a 1-2. And for college itself, learning how to kind of throw a hook as well and defend myself a bit. But I've been involved with a little bit of boxing myself, watching it and kind of studying it a little bit. I remember my very first time sparring, and it was so hard at first. Like, I felt like I couldn't throw a punch. And I realized this is the perfect difficulty for me to learn to advance in my life. When it comes to my hobbies and my sports and my skills and whatnot, boxing, this is it. I actually kept going to boxing, and I kept showing up, and I kept learning the skills. I kept learning more and more and more and more of what this sport had to offer. And in 2024, I decided I kind of wanted to fight. I was seeing all the people I've trained with before. I've seen them fight before. I was like, I can do that too. So luckily, I stumbled upon one of the best gyms here in Palm Bay, Florida, MCKO Boxing. Stumbled across him. He taught me the ins and outs of pretty much how to be in a fight and how to defend myself in a fight, how to attack in a fight. We have some of the greatest people in our team. It's amazing. I love it. All the sparring that we've done, I spar with different weight classes as well as different ages. It was some of the most exciting parts of my boxing journey so far. And with that being said, I competed in my first fight. That drive all the way to the top boxing is where I competed for my very first fight. And for my second fight, it was nerve-wracking. I was so nervous of the uncertainty, only because of what I didn't know my opponent. We find out our opponents the day of, because it's an exhibition match. I found out my opponent the day of, and when I was there at the boxing gym, I'm working the bag, trying to get warmed up and trying to loosen up the nerves a little bit, but I couldn't shake it. And I find out that my opponent didn't show up, or something happened with my opponent that I was supposed to fight someone, and they gave me another person. The other person was way more experienced and whatnot, so I figured, okay, let's bring it. Let's get this fight on. And for that very first fight, it was hard for me to try to shake the nerves, because when I got punched in the face for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time, my game plan went out the window. My game plan was to, move around a little bit, work the body, yada, yada, yada. That went out the window. It's gone, long gone. After getting punched in the face, it was long gone. I didn't know what to do. So by round two, I would say in between round one and round two, while taking my break, my coach just basically told me, fight him to the best of your ability. You got this. So all I had to do for the next 2 rounds was to think about, what am I going to do to get myself out of this situation? That's the one thing that I do love about boxing. It'll tell you how to get yourself out of a situation. You are in there facing your own problems, and it's the only sport that will allow you to do that. It's you versus your opponent, of course, but it's also you versus you. My biggest worry was losing, but not losing like at all, but losing badly and not proving myself that I could do this and look good while doing it. Like I was trying to perfect something that wasn't even there. So second round, a little bit more comfortable, trying to adapt to, the fighting style that he was giving me and whatnot. And then my third third round, it was probably my best round. I was definitely more aggressive, trying to keep the pace, and yeah, it was definitely a good fight. I lost. I lost. It wasn't a bad loss or anything like that, but I did have a bloody nose and hurt in a sense. Body was hurting, head was a little bruised up. Um, it was a humbling experience, very humbling. But I never wanted to feel that feeling again. So my second fight, I ended up winning by knockout. Now, how did that happen? I was running through troubles in the fight. Before I got my knockout, I was getting jabbed quite a bit, and I was stuck in a position where I didn't know what to do. And something inside of me told me, hey, this is your opportunity to land something to try to get him off. And with that being said, I threw a right hook and 2 uppercuts, knocked him out. All respect to my opponent. It was a great fight. He definitely landed a lot of good shots on me. But I finally got to feel what it felt like to be a winner in the boxing landscape. So now that I know what it feels like to lose, now I know what it feels like to win. I must maintain those winning qualities in order for my challenges to be successful. I love to be challenged. I've been challenged all throughout my life. Like I said, I've been in the Army. I've took college level classes in high school. I love to work out and test myself, test my maxes. Well, I used to, but now it's more endurance-based work and working more athletically. And I am very grateful to be where I am right now. I'm very grateful to see what my life can bring. And I would like to show a lot of gratitude to not only the sport of boxing, but to my friends and family, to my girlfriend. If you're watching this late into the video, happy Valentine's Day. This was recorded on the 15th, so happy belated Valentine's Day, even though I told you yesterday. But it's good to see that you're watching. And yeah, I think that all people in life should involve themselves in some type of challenge. They should involve themselves with some type of obstacles that they must overcome in order to feel some type of gratitude towards life. Very grateful for a lot of things. My entire life right now, very grateful for it. Very grateful for what has became. I'm very grateful for what is coming for me. And I'm very grateful to show you all what is next. And very soon, you'll see. Other than that, it's really all I have now. Came to this beautiful park here in Melbourne, Florida. I was going to the gym, on my way to the gym, and I decided, hey, well, it's actually kind of a nice park. I wanted to film real quick, but I hope this talking session, you could say, is something that you all take inspiration from. I don't really have a script on this one. I didn't really have a plan on it. I just pressed record, started on the whim. It's very windy out here. I really hope this footage isn't ruined or burnt by this wind into the microphone. I put the wind filter on. I really hope it works. But yeah, so other than that, I really hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, great rest of your day, weekend for the people who are watching now. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you, and see you later.